Okay, so excuse me. Today's video is gonna be super chill. It is 5:47, so I'm gonna try to get through this video as fast as I can. Sorry for my oh my god. Sorry for my appearance. I just got done filming one video, but now I decided that I wanted to film this video, and I wanted to be super hold on. I wanted to be super chill about it, super relaxed about it. I didn't want it to be anything serious. I'm going to turn down the brightness just because it's blinding my eyeballs. So we're just going to have like a nice little chat. We're just going to chill out. We're just going to hang out. We're just going to talk. Nothing serious. Well, I mean, it is kind of serious, but I don't want you guys to, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but just as a forewarning, I just want to put a trigger warning, an official trigger warning here to let you guys know that I will be talking about things like depression and suicide and anxiety and self-harming and things like that. So if you guys are triggered by that, I would like you to judge your mental health and mental stability and use that knowledge of yourself to determine if this is something that you should be watching. But for the rest of you who decide to stay along for the ride, then let's go ahead and get into this video. So I have like, I don't know if I'm getting a cold or what, but I feel this like phlegm in my throat, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds weird and there's like a hair in my mouth. So I'm going to be drinking my water and trying to get through this video without sounding like a dying horse. But I'm sitting on my couch, obviously. I've had a couple videos now with me on this couch, but it's comfy, you know? It's so much more comfier than sitting back there in that chair, and you know, I don't know, I just feel more comfortable here. And so I've noticed on a couple of my videos, or maybe just one of my videos, that some of you guys have pointed out my scars, and that's totally fine. Like, I don't really care, but I want to just kind of let you guys know everything that goes on with that, because for one, I don't want you guys to worry, because I'm fine. I'm doing just fine. I am doing the best that I have been in a while, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy with my life. I'm happy where I'm super oily too. Ugh. But I'm very happy with where my life is going, the direction that my life is heading. It's a little chaotic and sometimes it's a little overwhelming, but I'm doing just fine, so I don't want you guys to worry. But I have noticed that some of you have pointed out seeing some of my scars, and that's totally fine, whatever. But also I do want to just kind of advise you guys not to necessarily point that stuff out everywhere that you see that, because some people, you know, may not mean to show that and don't really want you guys pointing that out to them. So again, I'm fine with it. I don't really care, but just, you know, be courteous to others who may get triggered or offended or whatever by others pointing that out. But anyway, so if you guys haven't watched, I think it was like either my very first YouTube video or one of my very first YouTube videos, but I basically talked about my journey in life, and I'm going to kind of quickly debrief you guys on that because I don't want to go through all of it because it is a very long story. But when I was younger, my mother, dog's hopping up here. When I was younger, my mother passed away from breast cancer, and that took obviously a very strong toll on me mentally and emotionally. I was 14 years old when she passed away, but ever since I can remember, ever since I was, you know, consciously alive, she has always had cancer. And so that was not something that was, you know, strange for me. I don't know, I just never expected that my life would turn out the way that it did. But during that time of my mother being in and out of hospital and being very sick and being very ill, I was also in a very terrible relationship, which I did a couple of storytime videos on that I'll put in the description. But I was in a terrible relationship. It was abusive, verbally, mentally, emotionally, never physically, but it just took a lot of toll on my self-esteem. It took a lot of toll on my mental health, and eventually it got to the point where I ended up in a psychiatric hospital, which again I also did a storytime video on. But I ended up in the psychiatric hospital for a week, and once I got out of that, I went into therapy and I was put on medication, and that helped for a few years. And then I decided to get off of my medication because I thought I was doing just fine and I didn't need it, and I quit cold turkey, which I don't suggest you do, but I did, and luckily for me, I turned out just fine. But again, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But I felt fine, and I went without my medication for a very long time until my freshman year in college is actually when I think I went off of my medication maybe my sophomore year in high school, and I didn't go back on medication until my freshman year of college. So I was off of it for a few years, and I would say around my junior year, definitely into my senior year, I felt some side effects of, I wouldn't say of not being on my medication, but I just felt, you know, different. Obviously, you know your body better than anyone else does. I knew my body better than anyone else did, and so I knew when I wasn't feeling right, and I knew when something about me mentally wasn't right. And so I always had that in the back of my head of like, you know, maybe I need to talk to someone about it. Maybe I need to go see someone, you know, I don't know. I just kind of played with that idea in my head for a while, but I never actually did anything until my freshman year of high school came around. And once I got into my freshman year of college, once I got into my freshman year of college, I realized that I was not doing well. I was not handling college well. I was not dealing with the change of college well. You know, come here. And I just needed help, and I knew that I needed help, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with accepting that something is wrong and acknowledging that you need help and getting that help that you need, and I think that is completely okay, and I would recommend that. And so I decided to go get help, and they put me back on the medication that I was on when I was in high school, but the medication that I was on gave me terrible side effects. I was having terrible like mental breakdowns for no reason, and I remember one time it was so bad that one day I ended up this was in the apartment that we used to live in, and we had a walk-in closet, and I remember turning off the lights in my walk-in closet, going in there, shutting the door, going to the back of the closet, sitting in the corner and crying, and then me and Micah got into an argument, and I ended up throwing one of our cats on him. It was just like, it was a big ordeal. But anyway, after that day, I decided that one, I was stopping that medication immediately because I was not taking that shit ever again. And then that I was going to go back to my doctor and ask for a new medication. And so that's what I did. I went back to my psychiatrist and I asked for them to put me in a different medication. And so they did. Stop chewing on that pillow, please. You have a toy literally right here to chew on. Don't chew on my pillow. But I ended up getting put on a different medication, which has worked. Now that I give her the toy, she's gonna squeak it. Anyway, I ended up going on a medication that has worked phenomenally for me, and I love being on it. The only thing about it is, you know, the medication just treats the symptoms. It doesn't really cure you. And so for me, when I first was on medication, my biggest problem was depression. I was very depressed. I was had a lot of suicidal thoughts and things like that. But anxiety was not really one of those things. I know that I had social phobia, but it wasn't intense, you know. I just knew that for me and for a kid, you know, you're just shy. But as you progress into adulthood, it becomes something different, you know, it becomes like an anxiety disorder. But as a kid, you know, I was like just shy, and it really didn't bother me that much. The biggest thing for me that like triggered like, you know, anxiety or whatever when I was a kid was being in front of crowds, having to perform in front of crowds and doing stuff like that. But I think that's kind of just in general for a lot of kids. But so my biggest problem when I was little was depression. But since then, going back on medication, I would say that when I restarted medication, my biggest problem at that point in time was not necessarily depression, but anxiety, with depression being like a number 2 problem. And so my psychiatrist had diagnosed me with depression, social phobia, and agoraphobia. If you don't know what agoraphobia is, according to Webster, it is abnormal fear of being helpless in a situation from which escape may be difficult or embarrassing, that is characterized initially often by panic or anticipatory anxiety, and finally by the avoidance of open or public places. So that's basically me in a nutshell. That is where like 99% of my anxiety was triggered from or stemmed from, was being in places that I felt like I had to be there. I felt trapped. Here's the thing. This is why college is not something that I personally enjoy, because I feel like I have to go because I'm paying all this money to go and I'm stuck in this classroom, and I don't know, it's just a feeling of being trapped in this place that I don't want to be. And so there's that. But also, a lot of it came from, one of my biggest triggers for it is theaters, and like classrooms. And the thing with that is theaters is my #1 trigger for like my agoraphobia, my social anxiety, because whenever I'm in a theater, and it's not like the theater in general, it's very specific, but if I'm in a theater and it's just me, and like if me and Micah go to the movies, for example, and it's just me and him in the movie theater, I hate that. A lot of people love to have the theater by themselves. I hate it. When I was little, I used to love it because I was like, yay, I'm with my friends, we can have a party in here by ourselves, that was fine. But as an adult, for whatever reason, I guess because like the news and things like that are just like in itself like triggering, but I hate being the only people in a movie theater, because to me, in my mind, whenever that situation happens, I always think, you know, well, what if someone comes in here with a gun and wants to kill us, you know, then, you know, he knows that there's only 2 people in here, so guess who's getting shot? Me. And so that's something that really triggered my social anxiety and triggered my anxiety in general, is just because that was something that I always feared. You know, what are you doing? But that was something that I always feared, was being trapped in that movie theater, being trapped in a place where someone could hurt me and I felt like I couldn't go anywhere and that I was doomed, basically. And it was also like that in classrooms, because if I was, it used to be a lot worse when I first started college, but now it's gotten a little bit better. But it used to be when because in college you don't get assigned seats because you're an adult, and I loved that because I could choose the seat that I wanted, and it would always be a seat that was towards, not necessarily towards the very back of the classroom, but either towards like the middle of the classroom, and never in the front, and never by a door, and never in the front by a door. Because again, to me, and it always stems back to like mass shootings and things like that, if I were ever, you know, in the classroom, like there's a door here and I'm sitting, like here's the door and there's a desk here and I'm sitting here, you know, if someone comes in the door with a gun, guess who's first? Me. And so I, again, was very afraid of stuff like that happening, which some people classify anxiety as having irrational fears, but for people with anxiety, it's completely, some of it can be irrational, you know, but to them and to me, you know, my anxiety is completely rational, and it's something that could completely happen. And some people would think, you know, well, that would never happen, or it's not likely that that would happen. I'm like, yeah, but it's not impossible. There's not like a 0% chance of that happening. School shootings happen all the time. Movie theater shootings happen a lot. You know, it's not unthinkable. It's not something that's impossible to happen. And that chance of it happening, no matter how small it is, scares the crap out of me. And so that's something that I've always had to, not always, but that's something that I've had to learn how to deal with. And so while being on medication, while it treats those physical symptoms of feeling scared and having that anxiety and helping prevent anxiety attacks and panic attacks and things like that, it doesn't solve the thought process. And so now if I go to a movie and it's just me and Mike in the movie theater, it does, if it's just me and him, it still makes me uneasy. But if there's a couple of people in there, I'm still uneasy, but I'm not like necessarily freaking out. But the medication helps keep that anxiety at bay, so I can focus on, you know, keeping my mind calm. And that's something that I think is really helpful, because although it doesn't solve, you know, my mind from going to that place, and it doesn't stop me from thinking those things, it stops my body from reacting. So I still have those thoughts that go through my head, but since I'm not feeling panicked, I can focus more on my thoughts and focus more on, you know, talking myself out of the situation and kind of calming my mind down. Because before, it's very hard to, you know, talk yourself out of that when you're in like panic mode, because, you know, you're feeling panicked, and so your mind starts racing even more, and then instead of calming yourself down, you just end up freaking yourself out even more. And so I think the medication is really great because it helps my, you know, body to calm down, and so that way I can focus on calming my mind down. And I know a lot of people have opinions on, you know, medicating and medication and things like that, and I get that and I understand that, but for me, I have had good and bad experiences with medication, but regardless of the bad experience, I still think that medication is good for me and is a good choice for me to make. And I'm not saying that it's good for everyone, and maybe not everyone should be on medication, but again, you know your body best and you know what's best for you, and so take whatever action works best for you. So that's kind of my mental health journey in life. Now I'm feeling very good. Again, still have those thoughts that go through my head, but the feeling of anxiety is not there anymore most of the time. Obviously, sometimes I still get anxious and I still have anxiety attacks, but I get anxiety attacks almost never, honestly. Hey, get down. But I don't get anxiety attacks often at all. I don't get panic attacks almost ever anymore. And Eunice just stuck her butt right in my face. But it doesn't mean that they don't ever happen. It's just sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but they're much less frequent now, which is great. It's great for me. And so mentally I'm doing very well. Again, I still feel, you know, stressed out and overwhelmed, but those are normal people emotions. There's not medication that can really like take away all emotions, because then you're just a robot and that's no fun, you know? People have to struggle, people have to go through things. It's just how you deal with those things that, you know, matters. And speaking of that, great segue, Emily. Thanks, Emily. I used to not deal with stress in a healthy way when I was younger and going through all the things that I was going through. I ended up reading a book called Willow, and I still have yet to finish the book. A lot of people have told me that I need to finish it, but I just feel like it would be really triggering for me to do it. But I started reading a book called Willow, which was about a girl named Willow, and she would self-harm. And so for me, she would cut herself, and that is the form of self-harm that I use, but I don't like using that word. And so whenever I refer to self-harming in terms of me and in terms of the book, then just know that that's what I'm talking about. But I don't necessarily like that word. I honestly find that word triggering. I don't like it. But yeah, so I read that book, and in the book she self-harmed, and so I thought, for me, you know, maybe that's a good thing for me to try, which is stupid. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. That was so stupid of me. But being me and being, you know, little old me, I thought that was a great thing, and so I decided that I was going to try it, and I did, and I ended up becoming addicted to it. And I think, honestly, that addiction is the perfect word to use, and some people, you know, don't necessarily want to acknowledge things like that as an addiction, but it is. It's something that you do to make you feel better, and eventually once isn't enough, and eventually twice isn't enough, and eventually, you know, 3, 4, 5 times doesn't become enough, and your body craves more. And it's something that, you know, addicts deal with. And so for me, I became addicted to hurting myself, and whenever I would feel sad, and whenever I would be stressed out, and whatever, I would hurt myself. And again, like addicts, it became something that, you know, once wasn't enough, and I had to do it more, and I had to do it more often, and I had to do it, you know, deeper and whatever. And it was something that my body craved, because scientifically, if you look up the whole science behind self-harm, you can find that it does release endorphins and things like that into your body, and it does chemically in your brain make you feel better. And so obviously, if you do something that's going to make you feel better, you want to keep doing it, regardless of if it's, you know, good or bad for you. So that was something that I dealt with for a very long time, and like all addicts, I will continue to deal with for the rest of my life. It's just, you know, if I give into that addiction or not. So when I was about 14, I think it was in 8th grade is when I started, and since then, if I counted every single time I took a blade to my wrist, I could say it was easily at least 5,000 times, if not more. I have scars that cover my body, scars that have faded, scars that are still there. The scars that you see most often, and that I believe a lot of people have commented on, are the ones that are on my arms, and are these right here. These are dark, these are newer. These happened, I think, maybe 3 months ago. Since that 3-month mark, again, I feel like, you know, I've been clean for a while, but I do have bouts of relapses, and again, it depends on my mental distress in that moment. And obviously at that moment I was feeling very overwhelmed, very stressed out, and very, you know, unhappy, and a lot of stuff was going on in my life at that time. And so I was just, you know, using that outlet that I had always gone back to, and I had gone back to it, and I had relapsed. But I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing, because again, as addicts and things like that, that's what you have to deal with, and you can't just, you know, I mean, some people can stop cold turkey and never do it again, but as someone who became emotionally dependent on it, I couldn't just stop, and I couldn't just say, okay, I won't do it anymore, because I knew that that would be a lie. And I know a lot of people made me promise, like, promise you won't do it again, promise you won't do it again, and I would promise, and I knew that'd be a lie because I knew I wouldn't be able to help myself. And that's, you know, brings up a whole, you know, feeling of, you know, I don't want to disappoint people, but, you know, that's something that I depended on. And so I feel like I have a good, at least for right now, a good grip on that addiction. I feel like when something stressful happens in my life, I feel like I can deal with it in a healthy way, or at least in a healthier way. And so that's something that I will always, you know, have to deal with and learn how to deal with, is how to manage my emotional pain and things like that. But when I was younger, obviously I didn't know how to do that, and so I found an outlet that worked for me, and I stuck with it for a very long time. And something that was very difficult for me was learning how to quit. And it was something that I can't, you know, there's no like step-by-step process on how to quit. There's nothing that I could tell you that would help you really, because everyone deals with grief and pain and things like that their own way, and everyone gets over things like that their own way. And so there's not really like a recipe that will necessarily work for you. And honestly, I don't really know how I learn to get through that. I think honestly a lot of it was learning to put myself first in a lot of situations, because I was someone who very much wanted to, one, deal with things on my own and not ask for help, and two, sorry, my dog is sniffing the camera, and two, I was somebody who wanted to please people, and I didn't want to disappoint people, I didn't want to upset people, and so that put, you know, my happiness at jeopardy a lot of the times. And so eventually, I think one of the things that honestly really helped me was learning my, pretty much just, this is gonna sound so cheesy, one of the things that really helped me was learning my worth, and learning my worth through observing people who were, one, toxic in my life, and realizing that I didn't want to be like them. And you know, that's something that is not bad, you know? Like, sometimes you have people in your life, and I see a lot of friends of mine and people like that who have toxic people in their life, and they let that toxicity get to them and get inside their head, and it really messes people up. And sometimes, you know, you have to understand that if people, you know, truly love you and truly care about you, that they would want your happiness to be one of their top priorities, obviously your safety too, and so they would want to help you and want to be involved in helping you feel better and things like that. And for me, it was a really difficult situation because I kind of felt trapped where I was. And so one of the biggest things that honestly was one of the best things for my mental health was to take myself out of my toxic situation and put myself where I felt comfortable. I felt like I could be myself. I felt like I didn't have to hide anything, and I felt loved and I felt cared for. And not that I wasn't loved or cared for where I was, it was just I felt like I had my own space that I could express myself how I wanted without worrying about what other people thought. And that honestly just fixed a lot of things for me. And it didn't fix everything, of course. I'm not saying that that's the path that you should take, because not all people are able to take that path. But I think the number one step is separating yourself from people who are not good for you, people who put you down, people who make you feel bad, regardless of who they are, regardless if they're family or if they're not family, regardless if they're friends that you've known for a long time or whatever. Sometimes people change, and sometimes, you know, they change for the worse, and sometimes you don't like the way that they change, and it's okay to break off ties with that people, and it's okay to, you know, step back and work on yourself, and then maybe come back and see if you can work things out later. But, you know, putting yourself first is not a bad thing, and being selfish sometimes is not a bad thing. Obviously, if you have like kids and you have other responsibilities like that, then that's different, and I can't help you there because I don't know how to deal with that. But for me, living where I was living and Micah living where he was living, we decided that we would much rather live with each other and drive each other crazy than be driven crazy where we were. So we both decided to move in together, and we've been really happy. At least I hope he's been happy here, living with me. I mean, I don't know, but, you know, I've been really happy spending every day with him, and at least spending as much time with him as I can. I love coming home to him, and I love him coming home to me at night, and I love having our space together that's ours and that we can share. And not saying that obviously you need someone romantic in your life, in order to be happy. That's not the case at all. But, you know, sometimes you just need yourself, and sometimes you need other people to help you along the way. And whether that's a friend or a family member or a romantic partner, whoever, you know, sometimes it's hard to deal with things by yourself, and sometimes, you know, you would rather deal with things by yourself. But again, you know yourself better than anyone else does, so use that to your knowledge and use that to help yourself and help figure out things in your life. And I know it can be difficult, and I know it's very hard, trust me, but the people who are meant to be in your life and the people who care about you will be in your life. The people who aren't meant to be in your life and who don't care about you will eventually find their way out, whether you push them out or whether they walk out on their own, you know? And so life happens for a reason, and things in life happen for a reason, and so whatever happens, happens. And I know for me, a lot of my anxiety stems from not knowing, because I'm a very planny person. I like to plan things. I like to have a plan. I like to have a schedule. When anything deviates from my plan, it stresses me out, and I can't deal with it. I can't handle it. And so that's why life can become very overwhelming for me, because I don't know what can happen, you know, and I don't know what to expect, and I don't know what the next day holds, and that can become very overwhelming. But a lot of it for me is a lot of what helps me get through my day and helps me get through times like that is just taking it day by day and taking it one step at a time. And when something happens, I just kind of have to assess the severity of the situation and think from there. And you know what's weird though is when it comes to other people, I can remain much more calmer than when it is just with me. You know, like for example, Micah's car broke down this past weekend, and he was very stressed about it and very, you know, concerned about it, and I was just there to be like, you know, it's gonna be okay, like we'll figure it out. Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to help you? Is there anything I can do to help you? And you know, that's what I felt like I needed to do to help him. And you know, that's what I enjoy doing. I love helping people, and I find the most joy and the most comfort out of helping people. But I think if it was me in that situation and like my car broke down and Micah was like, it's gonna be okay, hon, I'd be like, no, it's not. I'm gonna have to spend all this money on a new car, and I would just like freak out. But I don't know, it's weird, like when something, not that I want bad stuff to happen to other people, but I feel like when bad stuff happens to other people versus when it happens to me, I can handle it a lot better because it's not me, you know? I don't know. But it's just kind of funny how life works out, you know? But again, stuff happens for a reason, and you just kind of have to take it day by day. And I know that's very hard to do, and I don't think that if you are feeling overwhelmed and you want to seek professional help, I think that is a great thing. I don't think that that's bad at all, and I recommend getting professional help and seeking professional help when you do feel overwhelmed, because a lot of the times people think that it's weak or think that, you know, therapists are quacks and they're just in it for the money. But, you know, do your research. Obviously, don't go to someone with a 1-star rating on Yelp or something like that. You know, do your research, get recommendations from your doctor, you know, things like that. There are plenty of people out there who are willing to help you and who love to help you and would love to see you improve and watch you improve mentally and things like that. And I think a lot of it comes down to evaluating your self-worth, and, or I guess reevaluating your self-worth and finding, you know, finding your worth in yourself and not looking for validation from other people. Because I know a lot of the times, especially for me, it was really hard for me to value myself not based off of other people's opinions of me, but I know, especially now, that I've done really well with being confident and being proud of myself and, you know, loving who I am and loving the body that I am. And again, I still have insecurities, and everyone does, and everyone's going to have insecurities. That's just how life is. But, you know, I don't look to other people for validation, and I don't look to other people to make myself feel better, you know? So it's just all about, it's all about you. It's all about knowing yourself. It's all about evaluating yourself, because again, in the end, that's the only person who's going to be able to help you is yourself. Because if you don't want the help, then you'll never be able to, you know, feel better, I guess. Because I know a lot of people who, you know, say that they want to feel better, but you tell them stuff to do, or you give them advice that is good for them and that would help them, and they don't want to do it, and then they get themselves back in a situation where, you know, it's like those memes. It's like, you know, the girl's boyfriend cheats on her, and the friend is like, well, you need to break up with him, and she's like, but I love him, and the friend is like, oh my god, you know. It's kind of like that. Like, if people want to feel better but they're not willing to put in that work, then sometimes, you know, you just kind of have to let them figure it out for themselves. And that's another thing that, I know this video is going to be super long, but that's another thing that is also a difficult conversation, is learning, one, how to deal with other people, or how to help friends who have mental disorders, while also trying to keep your own mental health in check. And that's not something that I can really tell other people, because for me, since I've gotten to this point in my life where I don't need, you know, I don't feel like I need other people, it's really easy for me to cut people off when they annoy me. Like, I've blocked so many people on Facebook, and I just don't talk to other people because I don't enjoy their company, and I don't enjoy their conversations, and I don't feel good when I'm around them, and so I just don't talk to them. And there are people who would consider me like one of their best friends, but I don't talk to them a lot of the times because I don't want to deal with it. I don't think that's bad, you know? I don't think that's selfish, and well, maybe it's selfish, but I don't think that's a bad thing, you know? And so for me, it just took a really long time to get to a point where I was like, you know, I was okay with leaving people on red, you know, I was okay with doing that for the sake of my mental health, because a lot of the times when you have friends who are mentally ill, and are you yourself also not mentally stable, then it becomes really hard to deal with other people's instabilities while also trying to deal with your own. And so for me, I found the best thing was to be there when I can be there, but also have them understand that sometimes I also need a mental break. And being an introvert too, I kind of need like a recharge, you know. I need time to, you know, take a break from people, be on my own, and kind of chill out and be in my zone, and then I can, you know, maybe go back and talk to people. But sometimes, and a lot of the times, it's just, you know, I'll talk to someone, and if someone is feeling upset and sad, then I'll try to be there the best I can. But, you know, when they come to you every day, every other day, every week about something new, you get exhausted by it. And I think it's okay to sometimes just be like, look, I would love to help you, but right now I just need time for myself. And again, if they're your real friends, they'll understand, and if they're not, then I think you'll find out very quickly. And so that's really all the advice I can give you as far as that goes. I know a lot of the times people don't want to be mean, and they don't want to, you know, hurt their friends' feelings, but again, like I said, if they're your friends, then they should understand. And if anything, you can always recommend them to people who will help. If you don't know like resources like that, then I'll try to list as many in the description as I can, of like hotlines and things like that, or text lines that you can talk to people who can help you through difficult times. And when it comes to something more serious, like talking to a therapist or psychiatrist, again, just look up people in your area and look up reviews and look on their success rates, or I guess success rates. Look up people who, you know, give them positive reviews and have, you know, really helped other people change their life, you know, because it's incredible what your mind can do, and as far as your physical state and as far as your mental state, because your mind is such an incredible thing, because not only does it just control everything, you know, your brain controls all your thinking and your movement and your breathing and all of that stuff, but as far as your mental health goes, if your mental health is in a bad state, your physical health takes a toll. It does. And you can see that in so many people, and I've seen it in myself. I've seen, you know, the physical toll that depression and things like that have taken on my body, you know. And so getting yourself in a good mental state is good for you all around. It's good for your health, it's good for your mental health, it's good for your physical health, you know. It's good for you all around. It's good for your relationships, it's good for, you know, all of that stuff. And so I really do advise you guys to seek help if you feel like you need it, if you feel like you're at a point in life where things just are not going your way. And there are people out there to help you with all kinds of stuff, like therapists. Don't feel like you're bothering a therapist because, you know, you're stressed about school. Like, that's so common, but it's not something that therapists are like, oh, well, you know, it's common, so just don't worry about it. You know, like, obviously they're going to be there to help you, and there are people there who are willing to help you and who want to help you and who really truly have a passion for helping other people. And so they're there to help you through anything, through small issues in life to major issues in life to, you know, small emotions to really big intense emotions. And so it really just comes down to what you feel is best for you, what you feel like you need. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have for this video. I'm sorry if it was super duper long. And my voice is shot, so I really need to stop talking. But if I feel like I have left anything out, maybe I'll make a part 2 if you guys would enjoy that. Maybe we don't have to talk so heavily about a heavy topic like this, but maybe I can talk to you guys about advice, you know, how to get through college if you are feeling stressed and overwhelmed, and tips that I've learned and tricks that I've learned to help get through stressful moments and things like that. Also, maybe we can talk about other stuff, you know, maybe we can have a sit in my dog's butt. It's just right there. But also maybe we can have a chill sit down talk about, you know, sex and things like that, because I know that's not something that is often talked about on YouTube because of, you know, monetization reasons and things like that. But I just won't monetize those videos, and I haven't monetized my videos yet. But if I get to a point where I do start monetizing videos, and I just won't monetize those videos, you know. So again, I don't do YouTube for the money. I don't do YouTube for the fame. I do it for you guys and for me because I love it and because I want to help you guys with whatever you're going through. And so if you want advice on life, if you want advice about, you know, a puppy, if you want advice about getting a kitty, if you want advice about, you know, other stuff, let me know in the comments. If you want advice about your sex life, you know, let me know. I would love to talk about it because I'm not ashamed of anything. I'm not ashamed of my sex life. I'm not ashamed of the things that I do. excuse me. The things that I do, like behind closed doors and all of that stuff. Like, people have their own personal lives, and that's fine, but, you know, I'm okay with letting you guys into those aspects of my life. Obviously, there's still things that I would like to keep personal, but, you know, I'm not ashamed to tell you guys about, you know, sex and things like that. And if you guys are interested in that, and, you know, not for pervy reasons, but for educational reasons, then, you know, let me know. But other than that, I hope you guys have an awesome day. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also, go down below, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you get notified of when I upload videos. Upload videos every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 12 p.m. all 3 days. Also, don't forget to follow me on my social media accounts. I will put them in the description below, as I always do. I just don't mention it, so if you don't ever check my description, then you would never know about it. But do make sure to follow me on my Twitter, because I do post video updates on there. But I do also have an Instagram that I don't post that much often because I only have 1 follower, so, you know, sorry. But, yeah, so check out those social medias, and that's pretty much it. You want to say goodbye, Bubble? Hope you guys had an awesome day, and I will see you in the next one. Let's say bye-bye. Bye!